All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all the honor, the praise, and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahushua, by Hashem, Ruach HaKodesh. Double honors to the elders and apostles, a great millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations to the elect scattered abroad. All right, this is Brother Bob's out here with a lesson, and Lord willing, it's edifying. All right, and this lesson will be entitled "E is about to come down with that great wrath," or something along those lines, right? And currently what we're seeing, all right, seems every time we look on the news, it's something new. All right. Now currently, the biggest thing is the biggest talk, I should say, is the SNAP benefits getting cut off. All right. And this will lead to a lot of different things, right? It'll lead to, people stealing and looting. All right. It'll lead to civil unrest. All right. This is also a way that, Esau, can ultimately justify him putting wrath, against you Israelites. All right. And, these different things, taking away these different government, assistance, even though we know that, it's mainly Edomites who benefit off of it. Esau, he's made Jake the face of welfare, right? Food stamps. All right. These different things of, government assistance, and, through that, he's going to pretty much continue to forward, his agenda. All right. His NWO. All right. So let's read this. Matthew 16:3. And in the morning, it will be foul weather today, for the sky is red and lowering. O ye hypocrites, ye can discern the face of the sky, but can ye not discern the signs of the times? And as we can see, we're clearly at the end. We have to be in the mindset that, at any day, hell can break loose. We have to be, built up through the spirit, right? Build up, a spiritual connection with Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. All right, now is the time to, try to come up, make it. All right, build a community, as you hear, these different Israelite, camps and leaders go into. All right, we're not in them type of times. We in the time that, the Most High, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, is looking to visit this world, and execute judgment. Okay. And the only way, you can really have that covering is by, having faith in Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. All right. Working out your salvation in fear and trembling. Okay. So let's get the next precept. Is Isaiah 24 and start at 8. The mirth of tabret ceaseth, the noise of them that rejoice endeth, the joy of the harp ceaseth. They shall not drink wine with a song, they shall drink, or Salakia, let me read again. Verse 9, they shall not drink wine with a song, strong drink shall be bitter to them that drink it. Yeah. So, people ain't going to be in joy. They're going to lose that mirth, all right? They're going to be, coping with different ways, right? Alcohol, things like that, not to party and rejoice, but now we coming into, those bitter times, man. All right. The hard times, the tribulation period, all right, that the Bible goes into. Verse 10, the city of confusion is broken down. Every house is shut up that no man may come in. And, Babylon, goes into the Hebrew, meaning Babal, which means, confusion. All right. Babylon, America, is also known as the city of confusion. All right. Verse 11, there is a crying for wine in the streets. All joy is dark and the mirth of the land is gone. All right. So now, we're seeing these different people, kind of have an outcry on social media. All right. Keisha stressing, saying she's going to break in and take things. All right. You got, people going on social media crying because they can't, afford, food, bills. All right. Against, Trump, we got ICE. All right. So, it's a lot of things that's happening. All right. And we're seeing that the mirth of this place dwindle down, man. All right. Now we have the food stamps going out next month. All right. And we know that November, right, is a month that people have the Thanksgiving, right? The so-called Thanksgiving. All right. People ain't going to have no turkey. All right. Ain't going to have no abominable ham, that these people love to eat during that day. All right. A big feast. Okay. It's going to be people out here, that's hungry, famine. All right. It ain't going to be that spirit of mirth. Okay. This is the book of Isaiah 33:6. And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation. The fear of the Lord is his treasure. And that's it. And we've been prophesying about this, for a long, long time, man. And Jake continues to scorn, not take heed to the message. All right. And ultimately, when that day comes, they're going to have no covering. All right. You're going to have a lot of people looking for the prophets, when they have no choice. When they, or should I say, when they have, when they in famine, a FEMA troop, snatch their ass up. All right. When, whatever the case may be, they're going to be looking for the prophets at that time. They're going to be looking to seek a relationship with the Lord, but it's going to be too late. All right. This ain't the time to build, yourself financially, build a community. All right. This is the time to really build that relationship that you have with Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Okay. Because that's the only covering, the only hedge you're going to have. The scriptures go into the just shall live by faith. All right. This book of Micah 2:10, arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest. Because it is polluted, it shall destroy you, even with the sword destruction here in Khan. And we know this ain't the end all be all. All right. We looking for that righteous kingdom. All right. We looking for, we looking for the new heaven, right, on earth. All right. With Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai. All right. In rulership, the Israelites in rulership or righteous rulership. All right. Currently, we're living in a society that we see that, that goes completely against Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai. We're seeing how it turned out, man. All right. That's why we complain continually, as the scripture saith. Okay. Because, hey, we hastening in the day of the Lord, man. That's why we hastening, all right, in Jacob's trouble to come. All right. Because, that the sooner we are to the kingdom. All right. So you gotta be in the right mindset, man. All right. Or that they'll take you like the thief. Okay. This is the book of Daniel 8:25. It says, and through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. And we're seeing that, this guy Trump coming in with these different policies, right? Coming in, enforcing the ICE agents, okay? The government shut down, federal employees not being able to work. All right. The government, not, pretty much voting to not pass the bill, right, for these different food stamps and, things like that. All right. And we're seeing, everything take place in order to further his agenda. All right. To further justify putting, more wrath on you so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. Okay. And he does this all, deceptively. All right. So and we gonna see what happens in the next, week or so, month or so. All right. Because, for some people, that's really their only source of, that's really their only way to get food. All right. So we coming into a time where, we got to move circumspect. All right. Don't be, going around, Walmarts and, things like that. All right. Pick and choose, where you get your groceries from. You may have to get, a little bit more than usual, before next month, because, we understand that, people out here, is it's going to get crazy. All right. So this is the book of Revelation 12:12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe unto the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. For the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. All right, and this man knows that, he has a short time. All right, that's why I was just seeing all this stuff happen, at once. All right, he's coming in with that great wrath. All right. And then, a lot of these Edomites is starting to show their true colors against you, Jakes. These different Christian nationalists, all right, MAGA supporters, whatever you want to call them. All right, they're completely against you, so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right, and if, you ain't been getting right with Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, all right, the Lord could very well, let them have their way with you, man. All right, because, instead of taking heed, all right, to the message of the prophets, instead of, going back to the Lord, all right, you continue to choose, the world, all right, and a lot of you women too, all right, is you gonna have to go back and get back in order, man. You've lived in a system that, you pretty much been allowed to, live off the system, all right, leave the man, put him on child support, all right, be this so-called independent woman, through the government aid, all right, but look what's going on now, man. These women are starting to panic, saying they want to, sell the cat, all right. You got different women, looking for a man now. All right, and you still got, a good amount of women that's still, proud and, things like that. But, as, we continue to go to, to the end times, all right, that's going to dwindle down, man. We still got to hit Isaiah 4:1. That's going to happen during Jacob's trouble, because these women is going to look for that security, that hedge. That's going to be the time where, they want to go back into their proper order. All right. But, hey, even with that, the Lord is still going, a lot of you women is still going to have to, get that judgment, But, that'll do it with the lesson. Lord, when those edifying. So with that, I'd like to give all the honor and praise and glory unto Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Chakwadash. Shalom.